All right, guys, what's up? Today I'm going to be covering a topic that I get asked a ton, and there's not a right or wrong answer with this. So there's just a lot of information to decipher. So here we go. All right, three things I'm going to cover today with tracks. That's going to be track height, lug design, and track length. So let's start with track height. Lots of different options there, and I'm going to basically talk about mountain. That's my specialty. So for a long time, we were in that 2.5, 2.6 range, and then all of a sudden 3-inch tracks came along, and now we've got something as big as a 3.25. So where does that all fall in, and which track is best for you? Well, it really depends on the type of terrain you ride, the type of snow you ride, and your agenda on the hill. The example I like to give is for the guy who loves getting out on the snow as early as November and likes to ride as late as June. You like a track that is very versatile, okay? And vice versa, the guy who just only rides on the deep POW days as a storm chaser, you might be a guy who loves that big 3.25 or 3-inch track. What we have really seen, especially like I've got to ride a lot of different snows, the sugary snow here in Colorado, the moisture content snow of BC and Chile, and then all the snow in the middle of that. And the way you can kind of think about that is for all conditions, you want to track kind of in the middle. You know, for an example, a 2.6, 2.75 lug height track is a very versatile track. Is it going to be the best on a big wet spring day? Potentially not. Is it going to be good on those sugary early season conditions? It's going to be better than a big lug 3.25 track. So it's really trying to focus on, okay, what do I want to get out of my sled? What conditions do I ride the most, and kind of take it from there. So for me here in Colorado, it's a tricky one because I ride a lot of them. I have found some big advantages, especially on the higher horsepower sleds, to go with those bigger 3-inch or 3.25 tracks. Vice versa on a naturally aspirated sled, the 2.6, 2.75 range, something in there is a very good versatile track, and it works really well in all conditions. One more example I'm going to give you for the lug height is in those conditions late spring when the snow's a little bit skatey, those bigger, taller paddles will fold and get a little slippery, whereas a smaller lug track won't fold as much and can help you out in more of those situations. So I hope that helps you with talking about the lug height. Now I'm going to transition over into lug design. Lug design is a big one. Talk about give and take on this one. So everyone wants a durable track, but they want it to not get stuck in deep snow. Well, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. There's always a sacrifice of that. If you have a soft paddle, it's amazing how it folds and lifts on top of the snow in deep snow. However, a soft lug will fold, and when you're into the rocks and the junk and all of that crap, it ends up that's where you could have some durability issues. Vice versa, if you want a track that lasts forever, it needs to be stiff and it needs to be heavier. Well, the problem with that is a stiff lugged track does not allow it to fold. It is bulletproof, but it will not fold, and so then it trenches versus lifting. And so I think what Camzo does a really good job is balancing that, and they're always messing with the lug stiffness to find that perfect balance. And so something, again, that I personally look for, I will sacrifice a little bit of the durability to get to the top. And so I want a track that bites hard, but yet folds to lift up on top of the snow. And so, again, taking a step back, looking at, do you ride in a ton of moisture content snow? Well, a track that folds might not necessarily what you need. You would be looking at a track that has a little more bite to it, so it can crawl up on top of that more moisture content snow versus my dry Colorado snow here. I need something that has maybe a stiffer base and then a softer tip, so it can lift. Those are some of the key ingredients I look for when considering lug design. And the last one, and actually kind of the easy one, is track length. On the mountain side of things, I remember when a long track used to be a 136. We don't even have 136 long track mountain sleds anymore. It kind of ranges from that 146, 155, 165, and there's still a couple out there doing the big 174s. I know I don't want to keep sounding like a broken record here, but it really comes down to, and this is the question I get all the time, what track length should I buy? Well, that is so hard because it depends on the type of terrain you want to ride. For me personally, I choose the 165, and I choose the 165 because I like the steepness. I love that thrill of trying to get to the top of the mountain. A lot of guys love, doing all these re-entries and bow ties and hopovers and all that stuff, or where they ride, they don't have that real steep, nasty terrain. That's where a 155 or even now the 146 coming back into play is a really fun snowmobile to ride and is their perfect choice for that day. For me is I like the predictability of a 165. I like the ability to be able to traverse steeper side hills and being more in control of the 165 and not have it wash out. And more importantly, I like to be able to go up, and having that little bit of extra footprint and yet still have the playfulness is key for me, and that's why I ride a 165. But in the end, to circle back, guys, when we talk about tracks, there's a ton of options out there. You really gotta figure out what your goals and agenda are on the snow, what your goals and agenda are as a rider, and luckily, Camzo makes a lot of products for each and every one of you.